Okie dokie. Well, I'd like to welcome everybody to the TWIM invite. I'd like to uh, welcome everybody to the Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation Workshop, a divine flow workshop about the divine flow of how grace and God's love and the Spirit moves within us. Those of you that don't know me, my name is Brian Plachta. I'm a semi-retired lawyer, but over the years, I have trained and transitioned into a full-time author. I've written a book, a number of them. My most recent is Finding Flow, Spiritual Practices to Reclaim Inner Peace, Balance, and Wholeness. I write a weekly blog that goes out for free every Monday. And I also, on the last Tuesday of every month, I like to do, as we're doing tonight, a free workshop on what I call street level spirituality, taking some of these concepts that we learn about either in our traditions or, on the road, what we learn, but how do we integrate that with active tools that we can use in our daily lives? And so tonight, we're going to talk about this. How do we make the mind happy? And it's called Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation. Some people may have heard it as loving kindness meditation. We'll talk about that in the Christian tradition. And it's similar to that, but with a little twist. We'll learn about that. So tonight we'll do a little welcome and we'll introduce ourselves. I'll ask you when we do the introduction in just a second to identify your name, where you're from, and also something or someone that makes you happy, someone that brings a smile to your face. So, and then we're going to go through some questions. Why do we suffer? Why is this monkey mind always running in our brains? And what's the root cause of that? Because if we understand the root cause of why we suffer mentally, then we can look at, okay, how do we resolve that problem? What's the solution? And training our minds to be happy. And that's really what TWIM is all about. It is training our minds that we can use both in our meditation practice. But what I've discovered, and many have, is you can also integrate it into your daily life. So it doesn't stop with your meditation practice. You can bring it into the day. And then we'll have an opportunity to practice the TWIM meditation as a group. And my hope is this evening, your takeaway will be that you'll learn the tools of TWIM, and you'll be perhaps inspired to integrate TWIM into your life so you can open yourself up to that deeper inner peace, balance, and wholeness. So in essence, as Bhante, James and I we're at a 10-day retreat from the Dharma Meditation Center in August. And Bhante is the monk we'll learn about that really introduced this concept. He says we use this practice so we can train our minds to be happy. So it's who wouldn't want our minds to be happy and gain the practical tools so that we can accomplish that. So if you do, let's just take a minute and just go around the horn here. If you'd like to tell us your name, where you're from, and what's one person, place, or thing that comes to mind that makes you happy. Who would like to share?
Well, I'll go ahead.
Super. Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah. So I'm Barbara Ryland, and I'm from South Portland, Maine. And what makes me happy is Australia, because my three grandchildren are there. They're toddlers, and they're so adorable. So we're far apart, but I love to see them. So I've been there a few times.
Ah, beautiful. Thank you, Barbara. That's great. That's great.
I'll
Somebody.
go. I'm Susan Guller. I live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And what makes me happy is seeing my granddaughter laughing.
Ah, there you go. How old is she?
12.
Fun, fun.
Not a lot of laughter at this point, but when I see it, it makes me very happy.
Ah, that's neat. Very cool. Somebody else want to go?
Hi, my name's Randy. I'm from Hollywood, Florida, and when my wife greets me at the door with a big smile, it brings me a lot of happiness.
Very cool.
My name is James, and I'm from Chicago. And what makes me happy is sharing a meal with some friends and just talking and laughing and not thinking about myself, then being involved with others. So
Very
maybe
cool.
that's the key when I'm not thinking about myself. So
Very cool. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name's Andy. I should say good evening, right? We're all in the East Coast, I guess, right?
Right.
So what makes me happy, I would say that maybe I live in New York. I'm from New York, and we are surrounded by water, especially where I live. So I think the ocean has to do a lot with the way my happiness comes and goes. So I like to be in the water, and the ocean, especially in the summers. Besides that, it's just about sharing the moment, living the present time, and getting engaged with the nature and the people that you love. That would be the best for me.
Very neat. Yeah, thanks, Andy. Yeah. Yeah, my Brian Plackton, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And yeah, what makes me happy, lots of things. Certainly my 10 grandchildren, my wife, my kids, but also joining together like we are this evening, where we're taking the tools that others have given us and we integrate them into our lives. And just to see each one of us in our own way and collectively connect with each other and with that deeper sense of God or the divine or whatever, however we experience that. So it really excites me to see people excited about growing that inner growth, basically. So yeah. So let me share my screen again. And so um, it was interesting. Randy reminded me, he sent me an email that today is the fall equinox. And many would believe that, particularly the full moon that's happening today, it's really cloudy here in Michigan, so we might not see it, but maybe where you are, you could see it, is really, it contains a lot of energy, inner awakening. It's an invitation to grow, to let go of maybe some of the old patterns that we've developed that aren't life-giving for us, but also, as we're doing tonight, to gain new tools to kind of stretch ourselves so we can step into that higher sense of purpose and clarity on both personal and collective levels. It's an ideal time for us to really open ourselves individually to that deeper consciousness of love, of truth, and that's clearly what we'll be doing tonight. I did not plan. I didn't realize tonight was the fall equinox, but Randy reminded me. So I appreciate that by coincidence or maybe serendipity, we ended up this evening with this deep invitation to grow, to kind of like autumn. The trees shed their leaves, but there's also these beautiful colors. So it's that both and of letting go of stuff that has been growing over a period of time, but also moving into our true colors, our true self, basically. So yeah. So as we delve into this to try to understand what is the source of our suffering, I'd invite each one of you just for a moment, and we've already kind of done that, so you can repeat that. So first thing is, who is someone or something that makes you happy? And we've all kind of named that, who that is. But then step beyond that. And for a moment, as you hold those people, each one of us kind of name people in our lives, or the ocean and the water, as you ponder that, how does it make you feel? What do you notice in your body when you bring to mind that something or someone that makes you happy? Who'd like to share?
I feel pretty energized with that, energized and relaxed.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, nice. Yeah, yeah. I feel within me kind of that energy, kind of irradiating a glow that flows within me. It feels like divine. I think it's divine love is what I've come to experience. It there's just this flow that kind of rises from my gut and fills my cavity and just kind of expands. So it's that divine energy of flow within me.
I would say the heart, right? When you share this, you feel a way of probably a comfort in your body, something that you breathe,
Yeah,
within your heart that
yeah.
you that makes you happy.
Very cool. So you feel that right in the heart space. Yeah, yeah.
I'm not, I feel something. I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm not always the best at naming what the sensation is, but I would maybe like a joy. I
Ah,
was thinking before about participating with the friendships and in talking. So it's that being part of and a joy of being together and celebrating.
Okay.
I think, because like I said, sometimes I'm a little confused on which emotion is which, but it is an energy in my chest, like you were talking about, Andy.
Very cool. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a
Yes,
joy of
that's good.
listening and being in the heart and communing with what everybody shares. You can share that as well. So the energy kind of grows. So it's really joyful.
Yeah, very cool. Isn't that neat how we can all experience it in the body in different way and in emotions, basically. Yeah, yeah. So the next is bring to mind something or someone that irritates you, something that just is frustrating. And just for a second, bring that to mind. Someone, something that just irritates you. And notice, how does that feel in your body? What do you notice within your body when you ponder, bring to mind something or someone that irritates you?
Yeah, I feel actually a pain in my heart and the opposite of what I experienced. I usually see like a color and after I feel something and the opposite of the golden color that I feel when I think of something, someone that I love, it becomes dark.
Yeah, wow.
I think I become somatic about it. I get headaches.
Oh, headaches. There you go. Yeah, 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 yeah.
I get very, oops, I get very constricted in my
Constrict.
body, very tight.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, for me, it's that tightness too. That constricted, I feel, and particularly in my forehead. It's like it gets like my brain gets, and then I get overly excited. Like the energy, there's a nervous energy. It's not a calming energy. It's a very nervous, and I don't like it. It's like yeah, yeah. Anybody else?
I think you said it: constricted, dark, fearful,
Mhm.
tight, and definitely not accepting, settled, or peaceful with it.
Mhm. Yeah.
Oh, it's interesting. I used to feel all that way previously, but now what I'm feeling is, when they screech your fingernails on the blackboard, it's like I just don't want it because I know, you know, I don't want that negative feeling, that darkness, and it's like I don't
Yeah.
want to think about the negative person anymore. So it's like I'm trying to get away from it, if that makes sense. But on the other hand, it is that it's not a good feeling. It's
Yeah, yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very, very, all of that is so true. It's that we can notice, and that's the beauty of, as we'll learn about the TWIM practice, is it really is a felt sense of what's going on in my body, and to return us to and give us a tool that we'll learn about that allows us to experience more of that joy, that peace, that flow of energy, and to also notice when we're constricted, but not just knowing it's there and having to like try to crush our mind, as we'll talk about, to get rid of it, but to find actual tools that we can use that help us move into that. And so the question is, what if we could train our brain to experience being happy all the time? We, in the first part there, we talked about the people and things that make us happy. What if we could always experience that and literally train our brain so that we could experience that? And to understand that, and we have to recognize, and I think, we're learning, and certainly in the Buddhist tradition, we are the cause of our own mental suffering. The truth is, your own thoughts cause most of our suffering. We enter into the fear based, as Randy mentioned. We overthink things. Our monkey mind is going to 2040. We're fearful about the future or dwelling upon the past. So the reality of it is, in most cases, we're causing our own mental suffering. And so at least if we can identify, okay, that's the problem, then we can begin to recognize, one, that we cannot control the outer world. And that is unfortunately a reality. I can't control the fact that my father-in-law died last year unexpectedly, and my mother-in-law has angry dementia, and she comes out sideways at my wife a lot. And I really can't control my mother-in-law. So I can't change things. But boy, would I like to. And that causes me suffering because I want it to change. But I have to realize I can't control my outer world. And the outer world is that external environment and everything outside of ourselves. It's what we perceive through our senses. It includes physical objects, other people, society, events, nature, the material universe. It's where we interact, observe, and experience life in a tangible way. So that's our outer world. Now, certainly we can do a little bit to control our outer world. We can, move from one place to another. We can distance ourselves. But for the most part, the outer world is going to take place regardless of whether we like it or not. But we can control our inner world. So I can control when my mother-in-law, who just before I started this workshop, called my wife and was pranking at her. I can allow myself to recognize, okay, it kind of makes me angry, frustrated. You control my inner world. How am I going to respond to that? And again, what I'm learning, and James also at the retreat we were at in August for 10 days, is learning there are tools, particularly the TWIM practice, that I can recognize that I'm trying to control the outside world or I'm frustrated, and I can lean into these tools and train myself to lean into them when I need to. So the inner world is the realm of our thoughts, our emotions, our beliefs, our subjective experiences. It includes our mental and emotional states. I would add it also includes our body states. We all talked about when we were talking about that, what felt good to us, the body felt wonderful and the heart felt good. But when we feel negative, the body's constricted, it's anxious, it's fearful. So the inner world is where we reflect, where we feel and form our personal perspectives on the outer world. While the outer world is shared and objective, the inner world is unique and personal. Again, it's shaped by our individual perceptions, our worldview of life and people, our experiences, and our inner processes. So we begin to recognize, okay, the thing that we do have control over is our inner world. And that's what we want to focus on with TWIM. So the question is, okay, if the problem is that, our minds, our thinking, our thoughts are what are causing our mental suffering, as many of us know about the Buddha, Buddha lived in this amazing palace as a youngster. He leaves the palace and he sees people suffering all over the place. He'd never been exposed to that. And so he goes on a personal quest to determine how and why do people suffer and how do we eliminate suffering in the world? And one of these practices that comes from the sutras, the teachings that Buddha taught, that Bhante Villamarsi from the meditation center where I was taught, he basically took the sutras and kind of like Father Thomas Keating did with centering prayer, he moved them into a very easy, simple pattern, simple tool that we can use. So there's a couple of ways that we can train our brains to quiet our minds. Certainly through meditation is an important one. And there's different forms of meditation. I've been meditating for 30 years now on a daily basis. I've used centering prayer, many of you may have, where you focus on a word or phrase to anchor the mind when it wanders. Sometimes you can use the breath prayer, where you focus on the breath. In the Jewish tradition, there's the belief that the first breath that God breathed into us when the doctor cut the umbilical cord was the pneuma, the spirit of God that breathes in us, for every breath we take. We can chant words or sounds to focus the mind. And all these are good practices. But Bhante, who I'll be referring to, who was my teacher, he would call these absorption practices because we're absorbing our minds in one thought or focus. Again, they're good ways to anchor the mind, but they have their limitations because, as Bhante would say, we're using the mind to crush the mind. And eventually the mind gets bored and says, I don't like doing this. And it starts wandering all over the place. It's like the sense of that we're, we try to use the mind to anchor ourselves like we would in a fishing boat. We put an anchor down to stay in one spot. But all of a sudden the anchor gets lifted. We stop thinking about the word or the breath or whatever it is. And now we're adrift on the sea, and we don't really have the ability to re-anchor ourselves. It might have felt good during meditation practice. But what I've experienced over 30 years, and my biggest problem was when I meditated for an hour or more, it was like, okay, how do I go out into the active part of the world? Do I really have to leave this meditation couch and experience rotten drivers and cranky people and my own frustration? I didn't know how to take that meditation practice, whether it was centering prayer, breath prayer, whatever. I didn't know how to take that into the day, because and I would try to go back, my mind, okay, what was the word for today? And it would cause more aggravation, basically. And Bhante says that the limits of those are, what happens is, Bhante says that we have a left and a right brain. Scientists inform us of that too, that covers the left and the right brain. There's a sheath, a thin skin that is over our left and right brain. And as we think too hard, that tightens and the brain is uncomfortable. So if we're using a word or phrase and using our thinking to try to train the brain to be quiet, we're just really causing this constriction in our brain, and eventually the brain goes, let's just stop this. So the key criticisms with this deep concentration on one single-minded focus is that tension and strain. We're trying to force concentration through focusing, which can be good, but it can also over time it lead to mental and physical tension, which is counterproductive to experiencing relaxation and joy in meditation and in life. And the other thing is these single-minded practice, again, better than nothing for sure. So not to ditch them, but there are typically temporary states. So again, my experience when I was in my meditation practice, and it's like I literally would kind of look up at my picture of Christ on the wall and go, really? I have to go out in the world today? It was a temporary state, and I would lose it so quickly when I went into the day and it got noisy. And it doesn't really address the root causes of why we're suffering, like we're attached to something, we're craving. And then the other is we're suppressing things by just focusing on a word or a phrase. It may be that spirit has something, an insight that wants to offer us, like, Brian, you need to be more loving towards your mother-in-law. You need to recognize that she's a wonderful human being. It's just her disease that's causing that. So by just, focusing on a word, I'm not going to the root causes of really seeing that unconditional love that God's inviting me to develop for them. You think of if you're in the water and you have like a ball that's filled with air and you push it down into the water, as soon as you let go of it, it's going to bounce back up again and fly up again. Well, in essence, with a single-minded practice, we're pushing down some of the the things that we need to really reflect upon, and they're just going to pop up again. So so Bhante basically said, is there a different way that we can do that? And so what he did is he looked at the sutras, the teachings of Buddha, and he actually, over a number of years of training and experiencing and living in monasteries, he basically said he thought that the Buddhist tradition, many had misinterpreted what the Buddha was saying about this tranquil wisdom insight meditation. And so he began to look more deeply at the sutras, and he said, there is a gentler approach that focuses on relaxation, awareness, and as we'll talk about, the 6 R's that he developed from the sutras. The approach of tranquil wisdom insight meditation. Also, you could call it loving kindness. I call it loving kindness with a Christian tradition with a twist on it, because we'll learn what the twist is. Many people experience loving kindness practice in the Christian tradition, and it's a good tradition. But Bhante adds, as we'll see, a little twist to it that makes it go even deeper and is more sustainable, both in the meditation practice, but also in the active part of the days. So Bhante, and as he looked, he says, there needs to be something that allows us to experience natural tranquility and joy without that mental strain that comes from trying to crush the mind with the mind. And so he learned that by relaxing and smiling, rather than forcing a feeling within us or a thought, we can develop an insight into the true nature of the mind and experience a more sustainable form of happiness. And so Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation, TWIM, is a more relaxed, joyful approach to meditation that emphasizes letting go, relaxation, and a deeper sense of awareness from a more balanced and lasting happiness. Has anybody here experienced the Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation or loving kindness practice before?
I've done loving kindness before.
Okay, cool. Yeah, yeah. And then James, you've experienced TWIM, obviously. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There you go. Exactly. My cohort in the 10-day meditation retreat for sure. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so the one thing that I think is interesting, because as I learned about the loving kindness practice with the TWIM emphasis, I was posting some stuff. I post positive things on Facebook, and in my any of you that follow my weekly blog for the last 4 weeks, I've been unpacking TWIM, and I actually had somebody email me, and he goes, "Hey Brian, are you still Christian?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I am Christian." Um, it seems to me that, and I think it's a good thing in our society, in our culture, in our spiritual world right now, we're learning that we can learn, like Thomas Merton, we can learn universal truths from different traditions. And the idea being that then we bring them back into our tradition to strengthen and use them as tools in our tradition. So I love this phrase, there are many paths leading to the top of Mount Fuji or to any mountaintop, but there's only one summit, love. And so I believe that we can, whatever tradition we come from, Christian, Buddhist, no tradition, or any other tradition, that we can look at the universal truths and the simple tools that Bhante gave us that we'll talk about, and just bring them into our tradition and use them in a way that's life-giving for us. Many of you that know Thomas Merton's story, he's certainly a Christian monk. He lived kind of a wild life as a young man and in college, and had his moment of awakening, becomes a monk and a priest. But one of the things he recognized is that as he entered the monastery, it was so ritualized. It was a good thing, but he felt, boy, it's like putting God in a box. So Merton began to study the Dalai Lama, things from Thich Nhat Hanh, Buddhist tradition, Suzuki, all these other traditions. And what Merton wrote about is, I met with these men and women, and I learned from them, and I read their words, not to convert them or to convert me to a different tradition, but to enrich my tradition and take kind of like Goldilocks, take what is life-giving and use those in my practice. So as I experience the TWIM meditation, and as a Catholic Christian, try to put it into my understanding, it really, for me, became putting on the mind of Christ. In Scripture, there's this, I think it's St. Paul that says, put on the mind of Christ. And I'm like, oh, a great concept, but what do? I flip a light switch, or I read the right book, and now my mind is like Christ. What I recognize is putting on the mind of Christ involves putting on these tools of loving kindness, both during meditation and also in the active part of the day, so that I develop more into the natural essence of who I am, that unconditional love that we all are, the essence of love. So it's a sense of putting on the mind of Christ is the concept, but the tools for me, and I think for many Christians, we're realizing is we need these tools, certainly TWIM and other tools, to make it more street level accessible for us on a practical way. So the Christian loving kindness meditation focuses on extending God's love to oneself and others. It's rooted in the Christian concept of agape, unconditional love. It's about aligning ourselves and embodying Christ's love and compassion. It's becoming the hands and feet of Christ by becoming more loving and kind towards ourselves and others. It's deepening that personal relationship with God. TWIM is from the Buddhist tradition, is really more about what Buddha was seeking, was to end suffering, to recognize that craving things and attaching ourselves, overly attaching to things, was the cause of that suffering. So the TWIM would emphasize using the mindfulness and the insights that we'll learn to deepen our sense of inner peace, balance, and wholeness, to eliminate the nature of suffering and achieve that liberation from mental suffering through insight and a recognizing impermanence and non-attachment. So the key difference between the practices is that they're just different religious contexts, but they both bring us into the essence of love. They're ways to learn how to reconnect with our true nature, which is love, and then spread that love in life to others. So they complement each other, it seems to me, in the pursuit of love, peace, and spiritual wisdom. So it seems to me that TWIM, I would say that it takes the Christian loving kindness practice that Barbara, you and I have both experienced, and many others have perhaps, and it continues with that, but it makes it a little bit more easier and more sustainable. And it adds this felt sense, this embodiment of loving kindness within us. And so the three basic tools that make it so simple is we begin with a smile. We offer ourselves a loving kindness metta or mantra. And then we focus upon the felt sense of unconditional love radiating within our body. What does love feel like within us? It's the object that this felt sense becomes the object of our meditation, is that feeling of love. And what it does is it really creates space within us to focus upon. So it seems to me what we do is we're allowing the mind to sink into the body by that felt sense of that, and so that the spirit within us can have the space to give us insights, to calm ourselves, to allow us to really open our hearts to the insights that we're learning, basically. So we'll go kind of break down these three different parts, and then we'll have an opportunity to practice that. Any questions before we kind of break that down at all? Those three basic tools of smiling, the loving kindness, metta or mantra, and the felt sense of that. Yeah. So Barbara, like in the Christian sense of that, we would do the loving kindness metta or mantra for ourselves, and then we extend that to other people, which is similar to what we'll do here. But it seems, again, we're adding a couple of other pieces and really simplifying it into this kind of a trinity of three tools. So the smile is really, really important because science tells us when we smile, it triggers the release of calming chemicals in our brains, the neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. And these basically, it's like when we smile, the body's saying to the brain, hey, release those happy feelings, basically. It's a kind of a sense of the mind becomes happy. The smiling restores our inner peace physically, mentally, and spiritually by inviting us to lighten up and laugh. Our smile can also invite others to mirror back the healing and uplifting power of a smile. So notice when you smile at someone, even a stranger or your wife or a loved one or your pet, how that smile, lifts their spirit, and you can feel their energy back. So the smiling is a really important part of the loving kindness practice taught by many spiritual teachers. So when sitting in meditation, but also throughout the day, and that's what makes this practice even more exciting, is we can bring this smile and these other two tools into the day and radiate love and peace in our hearts, and we can transform our moods, and we can actually open our lives to the pathway of joy and wisdom from God. So if you would, for just a minute, let me stop the share. And if everybody just wants to put a simple smile on their face, just a little smile. And what do you notice when you smile all of a sudden? What do you notice in your body, in your emotions? I notice for me, it lightens a sense of lightness. It slows me down and calms me. it kind of pulls me into the present moment again.
I feel my shoulders drop just a little bit. A little bit of that stress seems to just leave my shoulders and they drop down. Tap it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the body responds to those endorphins that are flowing in the, yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Does it feel good to smile?
It relaxes your face muscles.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Yeah. What is that? It takes so many more muscles to frown than it does to smile. I didn't realize that, but my dad, I had a Polish dad and an Irish mom, and my dad used to look at my mom and he'd go, Mort, her name was Maureen. He called her Mort. And he says, Mort, you better put a smile on your face. Your face is going to crack, basically. And I didn't realize it. I look back, it's like he certainly didn't know about Tranquil Wisdom Insight Meditation, but he knew the science of smiling, basically. And so he was teaching my mom to put that smile on his face, her face, or his joke was your face is going to crack or become a permanent frown on your face, basically. So yeah, so that smile is just such an important piece and the beginning piece of any of the loving kindness meditation practice. I have after I learned this practice, been practicing about 6 months, even before the retreat I went on. You go to the gym with a buddy of mine, and there's a woman there who kind of has a frown on her face all the time. And I think she's a really delightful person. She's an older gal and da-da-da. And one day I decided I'm going to smile at her. And I smiled at her and she smiled back at me. And we both, just for this instant, we could just feel this energy of love between the two of us. And now every time I see her, I still don't even know her name. I need to stop and ask her what her name is. But every time we see each other, we smile at each other. And there's a sense of we're radiating love. It makes us very happy. And one day I just said to her, you have a beautiful smile. And so it was a sense of, I felt happy that I was encouraging her and I was releasing, endorphins in my brain. But she felt happy because she was experiencing that sense of smiling within her. So smiling is the very first, very simple, but very scientific practice. The other is that metta, or the mantra. Metta means loving kindness. So the second part of our meditation is we begin by directing feelings of loving kindness toward yourself by repeating a phrase or affirmation. We might call it a metta prayer or a prayer mantra, whatever you refer to that. But it's a positive sense of, you may say to yourself, may I be happy, may I be healthy, may I be safe, may I be at ease. What I find is whatever I need in that moment, like if I'm not patient, like I'm yelling at my dog because she won't sit down while I'm meditating, and she wants a treat. After I get her a treat, I kind of go, may I be patient? May I be patient? So it's kind of, as we enter into that metta, that phrase, we're going to gently whisper to ourselves, not out loud, just quietly. It really allows the mind to sink into the heart space again. And we offer ourselves whatever we need in that moment. It may just be, may I be happy? May I be loving, filled with loving kindness? May I experience divine presence? So it's whatever you sense that you need as you sit in your meditation or during the day when you need to recenter yourself. You just offer yourself to that. One of my spiritual direction clients who uses this practice, he says, I change it from may I be happy to I am happy. So he's claiming the conscious state of I am happy, I am patient, I am in divine presence, I am safe. So again, whatever way works for you, but the sense is you're offering yourself loving kindness, because we can't offer loving love and loving kindness to other people if we don't first experience it ourselves. And so we begin that practice in meditation to really train ourselves to smile and then offer ourselves just a gentle loving kindness mantra. And that becomes something that we use to deepen our meditation. If a word or phrase doesn't work, you can remember an image that makes you happy. So you might think of your grandchildren, as we talked about earlier, many of us, or being in the water, an image, or holding a baby, maybe a puppy or a kitten. So just something that just, again, as you smile, as those endorphins are being released, calming you, you just bring into your imagination, into your heart space, a word or a phrase or an image of something that just makes you happy so you can sink into that. And then the big piece too is also this felt sense. The object of your meditation is the felt sense of love within you. So again, if we're made up of mind, body, and spirit, so what we're doing by these three practices, we're smiling. So the body tells the mind, relax and release endorphins. Then the mind sinks into the body, it relaxes because the mind can only think one thought at a time. So by offering the mind one phrase, the mind quiets. And then the felt sense is the body then becomes, the wisdom of the body then draws us deeper into that feeling of love so that we're open to the spirit within us, basically. So that really is an integration of mind, body, and spirit. So the phrase, the object of your meditation, that we always come back to when we're distracted, is that felt sense of love or patience or peace, whatever your mantra was within you. So we allow ourselves to really let go of the phrase that we're using, keep the smile on our face if we can, and just, what does love feel like within me? You might feel a gentle warmth, a tingle. You might notice your heartbeat, like, wow, my body is automatically just slowly beating this heart, and I can sense it within my body, within my heart. You might feel that flow. Many times for me, it's just like I feel like I'm a flute, and there's this wind, this pneuma, this spirit, this breath flowing through me. So there's a flow of air, perhaps. It might be a sense of energy, or the rhythm of the rising and falling of your chest. If you have your hands on your chest, you can just kind of notice the rhythm of rising and falling of your chest, just like a wave on an ocean that goes in and out. You might feel it in other areas of your body. You might feel it in addition to the heart, you might feel it in your gut space. So you're just noticing, almost as a witness, you're witnessing, what does this feeling, this felt sense feel like within me? We're observing what unconditional love feels like. And again, it can change from meditation to meditation. It's not like anything. It might change at different times, but we might begin to notice that there's a particular 2 or 3 or 4 ways that we experience it. So if you want to really jot down in a journal or in your notes on your phone how you experience that felt sense today. Did it feel like radiating energy? Did it feel like a warmth? Did it feel like that flute? Did it just feel like the heartbeat? And so you begin to recognize, oh, this is how my body naturally responds to what is my natural essence. I am divine love. And so this is when I connect with my body's sense of divine love within me, those fruits of joy, peace, love within me. This is how my body responds. So we're from the Christian tradition, or we're recognizing that God is love and we are love. We are not God, but we're not other than God, Meister Eckhart would say. So we're really allowing ourselves, like, wow, what does it feel like to know and experience that I am love? That's the essence of who I am. Einstein taught us that everything is energy, basically reduced to matter. And if love is the major energy, the only energy there is that's been placed into matter, you and me, then our body can resonate. It does resonate when we allow it to, with that sense of love. So we relax, we deepen into, and we return to the love that we are, the natural sense of who we truly are. And in that sense, we're letting go of all the world's distractions and the ego mind, the false mind-made self, but not focusing on that, but just allowing ourselves to experience the essence of who you are in human form. So those are the three concepts. Some people say, well, what's this felt sense? I mean, okay, it's a nice word, but the felt sense that we're referring to is the direct experience of metta, loving kindness, peace, love, joy, whatever positive virtue you're experiencing as an embodied feeling. It's the wisdom of the body that is saying, this is what it feels like within the body to feel this. And it's more than just thinking or wishing well for yourself. It's about cultivating that warm, caring, and gentle sensation within yourself. It's a body awareness that emerges automatically as you focus on generating those feelings of goodwill. And the practice, rather than anchoring in a word or crushing the mind, we're anchoring ourselves in the warm, heartfelt sensation within ourselves. And then as we do that for 10 minutes or longer, we then begin to radiate that outward to other people. So the key of this practice is to connect with your body's experience of love, which can be very subtle. And we don't even necessarily even have to give it a name, because sometimes when we name it, like James said, sometimes it's hard to name it. It's just, no, it feels this way. It feels like joy. Okay, yeah, what does joy feel like? It's like, oh, that feels good to feel joy. I don't need to name it or, put it in a box. It's just, yeah, this is what joy feels like. And I experience that. So kind of the summary, and I love this little phrase, it's a good day to be happy. Like every day is a good day to be happy. The question is, how do we do it with all the noise of the world and social media and everything that's going on? And yeah, it's really that simple. We train the mind to be happy by smiling, by using the metta, may I be, or I am. And then we allow ourselves to the felt sense of love within your body. Does that make sense? What does that sound like as a practice? Is it something, Barbara, that's experienced loving kindness, is something that you would add on to your loving kindness practice as a way to deepen it?
Yes, for me. Oh, really? Because I didn't have the sense of, well, the smile was left out in my training, and also the felt sense was not emphasized at all. So those are crucial. I think that will help a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Good. Yeah, that's what I enjoyed about it too. I've tried loving kindness and other forms, but yeah, that smile, certainly the mantra is always there, but the felt sense, it's like, wow, when my mind wanders, to bring it back to the object of meditation, the felt sense of love or patience or peace or divine presence, like, what does that feel like in my body? It's wow, it's just a different experience. Yeah, a deeper experience. Yeah. Anybody else? James, what have you experienced before the retreat, the 10-day retreat we went on? Were you using TWIM, or did you begin at the retreat, and how have you been using it since the retreat?
I've used well, thanks for asking, Brian. I've used TWIM for about 8 months before the retreat.
Okay.
I actually did a an online or a self-paced retreat before that for the forgiveness, because I had a problem feeling that loving kindness. Most of my study, most of the meditation I've done, it was all book knowledge. God is love, love is God. Well, great, great. What's that? What's love? And
Yeah.
until I could begin to forgive others and forgive myself, I couldn't feel the love.
Mm,
And since I couldn't feel the love, I couldn't experience it. And
mm,
since I couldn't experience it, it was always you know, God is love and God is this and that. It's in my head. So then when it's in my head and I talk to people, I'm arguing because we're arguing over words.
yeah, exactly.
But once I can feel it and experience it, it's personal and it's mine.
Mm,
And I'll share it with you and we can talk about it, but I'm not going to argue with you what I feel.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so, that was just the powerful point that you've been talking about, which I'm like nodding my head, is that embody the experience and feel the love.
Mm,
And it's night and day. When I experience it, I feel it. When I feel it, I own it. When I
mm,
own it, it's me.
mhm.
And then the question is now, it's like, well, am I the divine love? Is that coming to me? Is it coming by me? And then it's like, well, I'm thinking now. Don't think. Just experience it.
Yeah, just feel that felt exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Good for you that you noticed that. Yeah, in our Western world, we go right back up to the head. But the fun thing is that and I find that same thing is you recognize. Oh, here I go in my head again. So you've got some. Okay, just feel it. We can allow ourselves to sink back down into that felt sense of it again, which is powerful. Yeah, yeah.
And what I would share with that actually is I've been thinking about this when you've been talking is for me a lot of it is right when we were talking, I acknowledge it now. A big part of my practice is now that I tend to think of myself when I'm doing this as a little kid. And when I play with my nieces or nephews, or when I did when they were growing up, you'd be in the room with them and they'd be playing in this and that, and you'd be doing something. Then you'd notice them going away. And the image given to me is that if they're crawling towards the stairs, it's like, oh, they might fall down. So you run over, you pick them up, and you put them back in the middle of the room. And then they keep doing that over and over and over again. And all day they always end up going, and you can't tell them. And well, what am I going to do? Am I going to yell and scream at a 2-year-old for? It's no. That's what they do. Just go over there and pick them up and bring them back. So I use that metaphor, the analogy to remind myself, stop thinking, just come back and feel.
Yeah.
And love myself like I would a 2-year-old kid that keeps crawling away.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but learning to love myself is one of the harder things for me to do. So that helps.
Yeah, very cool. And now what's your daily meditation practice? What do you normally do with it? How long? Where do you sit? What during the day? What's your practice?
I usually try to practice at least an hour in the morning before my day gets going.
Yeah.
Because once the day gets going, I can practice at night as well, but the earlier in the day before I'm all cluttered up with all the days going, the easier it is and the less distractions I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I like to do that. And I'm sitting for maybe an hour at a time, which seems like a lot to me now even. Um, but one of the things that I loved is, they say practice at least 30 minutes in as much as you want. And so I try not to look at my watch too much and a lot, but it's and I try to do it every day because they say that's important to do it daily, and so I'd say that an hour in the morning before I get going.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And one of the things that I've started doing is on my phone, I set the timer for, I do an hour too. And so I set it on my phone. If it's 5 o'clock in the morning, then when I finally get settled, I set my phone to 6 o'clock. And so then I don't have to look at the phone or the time. I know, okay, when it goes off at 6 o'clock, I've been here for an hour. It's also kind of a commitment that I'm going to sit here for an hour, or if people want to just do 30 minutes, whatever it is. But I found setting a timer like that is helpful because one, it's a commitment, but it also allows me the freedom to not have to look at the clock, basically. Yeah, yeah. So it's powerful. And I think what we're doing is as we practice it in meditation, those three tools become normal to carry into the day. So what I find is more and more, like again, picking on my mother-in-law here. I don't think she'll be hearing this thing, and she's a great gal. I don't mean to pick on her, but so before the workshop, as I mentioned, phone call from my mother-in-law. She's grousing at my wife about something. My wife's grumpy afterwards, and I rather than grousing back, my wife likes to learn the things that I'm learning. So I said, how can you offer her loving kindness in your own heart? And she says, yeah, I'm working on that. And I said, not that it's natural, but then I took my dog for a walk and I practiced the forgiveness meditation that you refer to, that we're actually next month, October 29th, we'll do a separate workshop on the forgiveness meditation, because as James mentioned, many times our lack of forgiveness, our inability to forgive ourselves and others stops us from being able to experience that loving kindness. And so many times, which at the retreat, a day or two into it, David, the retreat leader, said, you're going to be practicing this for the next couple of days. You got to work on your forgiveness before you go back to loving kindness. So we'll be learning next month on the forgiveness meditation. And I wrote about it in actually in this week's blog that went out on Monday on the forgiveness meditation. But yeah, so we're training our mind to just use these simple tools throughout the day and to recognize, oh, I'm over here in grumpy land or whatever it is, but I can bring myself back by, using those three tools again. So yeah, good stuff. So let me share my screen again. And what happens is, as most of us, our monkey mind starts up basically. So we're sitting in meditation and, I got to go get the dog a treat, or I got to go, think about what I got to do today. And our mind naturally does what it does. The mind is intended to think. That's what the minds do basically. But unfortunately, if we're made up of mind, body, and spirit, we can't. I often think of a three-legged stool. If the mind, the body, and spirit are the three legs of a stool, if we had a stool with only one leg, that stool is going to tip over basically. So if we're relying just on our mind to lead and guide us, it's like we have a three-legged stool without two of the legs basically. And unfortunately, in our culture, we've been trained, I think, therefore I am. The Enlightenment has really, caused us to overthink things with that monkey mind. And it's funny that I think in our culture, we're all trying to find new ways to get out of our mind, ways to quiet that mind. So that's what I love about these, the 6 R's, again, that Bhante pulled from the Buddhist teaching, the sutras. So, what we do when we notice we're distracted, we first of all recognize it. Oh, I'm distracted. I'm not thinking about the object of loving kindness. So we just, without judgment, oh, yeah, I'm drifting again. And we befriend it. Okay, yeah, there I am. I'm thinking about my to-do list, or I'm worried about this. Oh, yeah, okay, we just kind of gently catch ourselves without judgment. We just recognize it in a neutral perception, and then we release it. We just say, okay, I'm thinking about what I have to do later today. I just stop thinking about it. Bhante says we gently close the door. You don't slam the door like, stop thinking about it, Plakta. I mean, exactly. I love your image, James, of the little kid that's, going to crawl up the staircase. You go over gently and bring them back to, where they're supposed to be sitting. You don't jerk them and, kick them in the butt and tell them, hey, stop that. You're gently bringing them back to. So that's what we do with this. With the distractions, we release it by gently closing the door on it. And then we relax, just as we did when we smiled. We relax any tension in our body. And they say that in probably the most important place that we'll recognize where we are tense is in our forehead, basically. We begin to think, and so the membrane over the left and right brain is constricting, and it causes us many times to tighten that forehead. My buddy was teasing me that I work out with, Ralph. He says, you got like all these lines in your forehead permanently. I guess I've had a tense forehead all my life. Basically, those wrinkles aren't going to go away. Maybe at 65, if I live longer and practice this, they'll go away. But yeah, there is that sense of there's a tightness there. Or in our shoulders, just as James mentioned when he did the smile, relax your shoulders, maybe take a deep breath. Just relax your mind and your body. You can relax your eyes even. Again, keeping your eyes closed. That's what in the meditation practice, the whole thing is basically not to have our eyes open, because that becomes a distraction. We're looking at things. So if it works for you, normally we would keep our eyes closed and just even relax our mind, and just re-smile. Then put that smile back on your lips, your eyes, and your mind. Can kind of soften the eyes, kind of soften the forehead, and allow the mind to just kind of the whole skull to kind of relax a little bit. But most importantly, putting that smile back on your lips. And then we return to the mantra, and I should have had that highlighted or bolded, return to your mantra and that feeling of loving kindness and stay with that. So we return to that felt sense of, okay, my mantra was loving kindness for myself or patience. So we return to that sense of what does patience feel within me? What does love for myself, loving kindness feel like? So that we go back to the object of our meditation, which is that felt sense. And then we repeat it. We stay with that loving kindness for ourselves. And whenever we get distracted, we repeat it. And just like Father Thomas Keating says with centering prayer, you might have to come back to it 1,000 times during your meditation practice. That's 1,000 times to train. That's fine. Just training yourself to come back to that. Just don't give up. Just recognize, yeah, that I need to, practice the 6 R's basically. It creates a deeper sense of balance. The distraction weakens over time. It might come back, and that's okay. Just 6R it again. But eventually it weakens somewhat. You might even notice that the release that you feel, like when all of a sudden, like the distraction or that is gone, you go, oh, wow, I feel good again. I feel relaxed again. So even noticing perhaps the release of that, you're creating space within you. I often think of my buddy Ralph says, meditation, whatever form, is we're opening our heart. And he always does this movement with his hands. We're creating space within our hearts. And so by recognizing the using the 6 R's and the 3 tools, we're creating space within us for love, for peace, our true essence of who we really are. And we begin to use the 6 R's. Again, we don't, as we begin more familiar with them, we kind of repeat them in our brain, but eventually it just becomes natural. We recognize, we release, relax, we smile, we return, we repeat. So again, that's the simplicity of this. Eventually your mind automatically knows what to do when you recognize, and these 6 R's become just a very simple street level way of practicing. What do we do with that monkey mind and come back to that? Does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions on that or? Yeah, good. So then, and the idea is we want to have collected thoughts. Our mind is meant to, observe many things at one time. You think of here's the sun with all the planets around it, basically. The sun isn't just focused on just one planet, it's all of it. But the loving kindness practice, right concentration, as the Buddha would say, the object of our meditation is this felt sense of love, our essence. And all the other thoughts just circle around us like the planets circling the sun, basically. So we may, in our meditation, all of a sudden we feel an itch. Oh, yeah, I feel an itch. But we come back to our object of meditation, the felt sense, and all of a sudden we stop thinking about the itch. Or a fly lands on us, or we hear a car run, outside the window. Oh, yeah, we just notice it. Okay, yeah, but we come right back immediately to the concentration, the object of the felt sense of love. So the goal is to develop a clear, calm, and focused mind that's less influenced by distractions and unwholesome mental states, anything that's based upon fear, anxiety, nervousness. And it's a sense that we're the observer. We're observing that part of the mind that observes thoughts, feelings, sensation, and experiences without becoming entangled or clinging or identifying with whatever we're thinking or thinking about. The sense we're the witness or the watcher. That mindfulness, they say, is just observing how the mind jumps from one thought to another. Yeah, here I'm thinking about this and I'm thinking about that. And the beauty of it is that's where we're mindful of, oh yeah, my thoughts jumping from this to that. It started here. All of a sudden I started thinking about this. But then we bring ourselves back to the meditation, the meta of the felt sense. So we notice the mind is jumping from things, and we just gently bring it back to our 3, the smile, the meta, and the felt sense, basically. So, as opposed to, again, other meditation practices, which again, not to ditch those, this it seems to me is just a supercharge, like getting do you want your fries at McDonald's supersized? It's like taking the loving kindness and all these other practices, which are good. I mean, good that people are doing them, and they have their certain benefits, but this is kind of supercharging our meditation practice so we can not only experience it, but also bring it into the day, basically. So then the question becomes, okay, what are the likely things, the hindrances or distractions that we're likely to experience? And if, again, as we are able to identify these things that are likely to distract us in meditation or during the day, we can begin to notice them. Oh yeah, that's what it is. And then bring ourselves back to the trinity of smiling, the metta, and the loving kindness. So the Buddha has, and Bhante talks about desire or sensual desire. Not that there's anything wrong with desire, but when it becomes, I want that, I have to have that, it's over desire, it's an attachment, a craving, then that becomes a hindrance. Ill will or aversion, when we say, I don't like that person, or why that guy's a jerk, or that person's a jerk, or I don't like that that thing that I'm tasting, or I don't like the smell of this. Sloth or torpor, being lazy, basically, or falling asleep. Restlessness and worry, that's a big part of the anxiety that comes up. And then doubt. Am I doing this right? Is anything really changing within me? So we'll break those down a little bit more too to understand them. So sensual desire, I like to put a little, I want more. It's like when I have a bowl of ice cream at the end of the day, which on my diet I shouldn't have to begin with, but when I get done eating a bowl of peanut butter and caramel ice cream, I put the bowl down. I go, I want more, and so immediately I'm going for a second bite of the bowl. It's like, oh, geez, oh, Pete, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's distracting me from having a more healthy diet, basically. So it's that sense of I want more of this. The hindrance refers to the excessive craving for sensual pleasures and attachment to sensory experiences. So, I'm at the gym and I'm 65 years old and I'm in okay shape, but I got a beer belly, or not a beer belly, but because I don't drink beer anymore, but I got a belly on me and some fat pads. And so I see someone my age and he's like built like a freaking horse. And dang, all of a sudden I want to look like that, or, it's like that's, and I'm not just allowing the beauty of that person, not just recognizing. So I'm craving, or I'm attaching myself. It's an over excessive attachment to I want that, I want to look like that. It can include a desire for pleasant sights, sounds, smells, tastes, physical sensations. It's seeking physical pleasure as the sole source of happiness. If I experience this, it's a kind of that sense of, well, if I experience this, I'll be happy. And now that I have this, I want more. I want the peak experience. There's a lot of conversation in our culture about what's the peak experience. I have a spiritual direction client who, for about 6 months now, has been meditating, on the contemplative path. And he's like, I want more of this. I want more. Maybe I should take some drugs to, to experience this deeper sense of like, well, that could be a craving that maybe that's not the exact way to go. Let's think about that. It needs to be a natural thing. So that sense of, I want more of this, that sensual desire, ill will, those feelings. Oops, I moved one too many. So ill will. I think for many of us, and James, you identified what one of my issues is shame. We're shaming ourselves. It's so hard to love ourselves. We're taught to compete, to be good, to be better than everybody else. And again, in moderation, okay, maybe that's okay, but it leads to this sense of shame. Like, I'm no good. I can never measure up to what I'm supposed to be. So ill will would be feelings of anger, hatred, resentment, aversion toward ourselves or other people. It's that sense of, the driver that pulls out in front of me and, you son of a gun, and I want to flip him the bird. It's like, well, that would be ill will, Brian. That's, maybe you need to offer that person, some loving kindness instead of flipping in the bird. And so again, the beauty of it is we get to practice it throughout the day. Oh, here I am in ill will towards someone else or towards myself. It's a hindrance that disturbs our mental peace. It obstructs that development of our true essence of compassion and loving kindness. It's when we're judging ourselves or others. It could be pride, that false self, that mind-made self. It's the opposite of who I am. I am, you are, we are the essence of God, not the fullness of God. So all ill will is I'm a bad person or they're a bad person. So again, I'll pick on my mother-in-law. It's like if I judge her like, oh, she's just a jerk and she's the meanest person I've ever met. Well, I'm experiencing ill will towards her. Her essence, her soul, even my wife and I were talking about that, is at her essence, she is a loving, kind, wonderful person. She just has a nasty form of dementia and it's causing her pain. So we can see the essence of her is love and turn that into loving kindness by recognizing the ill will. Sloth and torpor. I like this picture of this guy eating too much, the couch potato, basically. So sloth or torpor, you might also call it just laziness, refers to that mental dullness, that sluggishness, laziness. It's a physical or mental inertia or lack of alertness. It can appear when we're meditating, where we just start falling asleep, or it can appear when we are resisting meditating. I don't feel like doing that today. I'm not going to do that. That's a waste of time. I'm going to, look at social media. That's where it's really exciting. It's like, yeah, really, right? It's that laziness of, and it's okay if we fall asleep while meditating. We just notice it. We notice when the head's bobbing and the drool's coming down our face, and we just gently recognize, oh, I'm falling asleep again. So we bring ourselves back to that. So that could be another thing that we might experience. The other is that sense of restlessness or worry. And so many times, when we're meditating, I find that a lot. My body gets restless. Like, is that hour up yet? Or I'm starting to worry about something. It's the inability to relax, being bored or worried. It's an uncomfortable feeling of being uneasy in our spirit. The mind is too distracted, so I give up on meditation because I'm restless. The idea is, no, don't just recognize the restlessness. It's normal. We all experience it. Recognize the monkey mind. Don't let the monkey mind win. Come back to your tools, the smile, the mantra, the felt experience of that. And sometimes our restlessness can come from trying too hard. All of a sudden we notice, boy, I'm really trying to get someplace and my forehead is constricted or my body's constricted or I want to experience something. And then just simply back off. Oh, I'm trying too hard. Return to your smile, your mantra, and that felt sense of love within us. So when we're trying too hard, just, okay, no big deal. I just need to back off a little bit and go back to the trinity of the smile and the loving kindness mantra and the felt sense of that. And the other is doubt, that uncertainty, that skepticism, that indecision is this really working? It undermines our confidence in the people that are teaching us these practices. Do they really know what the heck they're talking about? Is this the right tradition for me? Wait a minute, I'm studying Buddhism and I'm a Christian, or I'm a Christian, or I'm a Buddhist. And this guy's talking about Christian stuff, mending in that. It's like it can be that doubt that hinders us from making progress. It many times is a resistance. Like, I know I should do this, but I'm forming this doubt. And it might be, is this practice helping me in any way? Is it the right path for me? The other morning, I was sitting in my hour of meditation and it was okay. But there wasn't any big insights. I didn't have big, fireworks going off. I didn't, experience the divine presence of God. And as I came out of my meditation, when the chime rang, it's like, wow, it was a waste of time. There was the doubt immediately. But as I sat there, I all of a sudden experienced this poem that rose up within me about busy doing nothing. Like, nothing is the most important thing I could do right now, doing nothing. And so it was beautiful that I recognized the doubt, like this was a waste of time, but by being open to the TWIM practice, like, okay, what's underneath that? This poem that actually is next Monday's blog, is about busy doing nothing, and that my soul knows that the most important thing I can do right now is just sit in the quiet and do nothing, and that is powerful in itself. I have a spiritual direction client who actually had some pretty serious years ago mental health problems that he was really went to a mental health facility for in-house treatment. And his counselor told him, and he continues to do that, is for 30 minutes every day, do nothing. That's his practice. Do absolutely nothing, whether it's meditating or just sitting in a chair looking at nature, or just do nothing, basically. And the counselor was saying that's the most important thing, because we're in a culture of always having to do something. We're always trying to entertain our mind with new excitement, new information. So doubt can be another one. So the idea is we can take this into the streets. I call it, we can during the active part of the day, you can use the TWIM practice to recenter yourself as you continue to train your mind to be happy. So during the day, again, you can, when you notice yourself grumpy or angry or anxious, put a smile on your face for a moment. Say a mantra to yourself. If you're in traffic and you think you're angry because you got to get to someplace, go, may I be patient, and put that smile on your face. And then as you're in traffic, stuck in traffic, smiling, saying, I am patient, or may I be patient. What does patience feel like within me? And notice how that just calms you for an instant. And you're training your mind to be happy with these simple tools. You're recognizing the 6 R's or any of the 5 distractions. You're integrating these 3 basics of loving kindness into your life, so they become a natural part of your essence, your lifestyle. And wouldn't it be amazing if everybody in the universe was able to practice loving kindness, or when they don't, because we're never perfect at it, but if we all could experience loving kindness and have the tools to do it, what amazing world. Because in that quiet space, many times there's some insights that rise up. When I was in the meditation retreat, I was sitting for about an hour, and I just had this sense, because one of the things that we do at the end of it, and we'll do in the guided meditation we'll do now, after you offer yourself loving kindness for, they say, 10 minutes, then offer loving kindness to a spiritual friend or to someone, the universe, or to other people, just allowing that love to flow out from you to others. And I was sitting, offering loving kindness to different people in my family, and And all of a sudden, I recognize out of the blue, I don't know how to receive love. It's like I did not feel love coming back. Now, these are people that I love and they love me, but I'm more apt to give love as best I can, not always perfect, but I don't know how to receive love. So it was an amazing insight that rose up because I was doing the TWIM practice, that just kind of rose up from the back of my mind. I would say for me, it was the Holy Spirit giving me some insight of, Brian, you need to learn how to receive love. And so in the loving kindness practice, I really continue to, okay, I'm receiving love, giving love to myself, but as I offer it to other people in my practice, I also notice what it feels like for them to smile back at me. So it's allowing us to return to that I am, the essence of who we are in God, basically. So I covered a lot, and thank you for listening to all the teaching there. We'll now but let's see if there's any questions or thoughts. And then we'll take about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and I'll lead us through a TWIM meditation, if you're open to that. And then after we've gone through that, then we'll just share what that experience was like. So any questions about the practice? Is it helpful? Is it hopeful? Does it seem like something that's doable? Yeah. Yeah. That's what I liked about it. It's a doable spiritual practice. It's really simple. My one track brain can think of the trinity of smile, mantra, and felt sense of that. And then also these other sense distractions and all that. So yeah. Yeah. Barbara? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, thank you. I just was curious, in your process of, say sitting for an hour, do you ever stop the mantra, or do you ever stop the mantra and just you rest in the felt sense? Is that?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. So it's really kind of a progression. So you begin with a smile. You start with a mantra, but eventually, as you are going deeper, you let go of the mantra. You really the object of your meditation becomes that felt sense because you're really moving into the body, the embodiment of loving kindness. So yeah, good question to clarify. Eventually, when you're ready, you'll let go of the mantra and really draw your attention to the embodiment of what's the felt sense of that within me. Mind will get distracted and you go off, so you come back to the smile, the mantra, and then the felt sense. But staying with what once you get to that felt sense, staying with that for as long as you just experiencing it and noticing. Letting it have its way with you, noticing how the energy, the flow, the warmth, how it just expands within you or moves within your body. So it's actually kind of fun, when you like, whoa, this is kind of, and that's the fun thing about this practice is the mind likes to be happy. It's like, oh, this kind of feels good to feel this little tickle inside of me or this warmth within me. It's like, this is great. So we desire, in a healthy way to want to continue the practice. But yeah, so we ultimately, yeah, you will let go of the mantra when it feels right and just focus on the felt sense within your body. Good question. Yeah.
Thank you.
And the initial practice, as taught, is try to start with 30 minutes, as James mentioned. The first 10 minutes, you offer loving kindness to yourself with that. And then the next 20 minutes is to offer loving kindness, they say, to a spiritual friend, someone you love. They say typically not a family member when you're first starting it, because you can have attachments to that. It might be, like my buddy Ralph is my spiritual friend. And that's a good practice. Again, I always say go with what flows. If you don't have a spiritual friend or that doesn't seem appropriate, do it like you do in the Christian loving kindness. Just offer it to, the city, the state, Israel, the Palestine. I mean, wherever it just rise up with it that you need to offer, or a loved one that's suffering. I have a client that just came down with brain cancer. So Carol may be someone that I would offer that loving kindness in the 20 minutes, basically. And the sense is that when you get to the offering it to another person or I like to think of it that you're feeling that loving kindness for them, but it's almost like there's a flow of energy, almost like how a wave comes in and then goes back on the lake. So you're kind of like the wave. You're offering it when you're offering it to another person. You're the wave that's offering that energy of loving kindness. You feel it in your heart. You're allowing it to extend out to that person, and then you feel the loving kindness come back. You really imagine them smiling back at you. That's that receiving piece, even if obviously they may not be smiling at that time because they're not aware of that. But you're imagining them, their loving energy, their smile coming back to you. So it allows us to both give and receive love, because love obviously is meant to give and receive. So it increases that flow of, kind of like the gal at the gym, there's a giving and receiving, like, wow, I can feel her energy. And now we always smile at each other, So yeah, you're kind of that flow of energy of giving, offering it to that person or persons, and then feeling it come back, and just allow it to be very natural and fluid, divine flow, as I like to call it. Yeah. Makes sense? Yeah. So if everybody wants to get in a comfortable position, if it's easier to turn your monitor off, your video off, feel free to do that. You won't offend anybody. And I'll just draw us into, a loving kindness practice that is a guided meditation. So yeah, if you would, just get in a comfortable position where you're at. Close your eyes if you're comfortable with that. And maybe we'll do a simple little body scan. So begin with the top of your head and just relax the top of your head. Next, relax your forehead. Relax your eyes. Relax your nose. Relax your jaw. Put that gentle smile on your face. And feel the endorphins, the calming endorphins just flowing from your brain, relaxing your neck. Relax your shoulders. Notice your breath, just allowing that to be calming. Relax your chest. Relax your stomach, your hips. Relax your thighs. Relax your ankles and your feet and your toes. Relax your fingers and your arms. Just imagine you're being held. Held in love. And as you sit with that gentle smile on your face, allow a gentle mantra, a prayer phrase or metta to arise in you. Say it softly to yourself. It might be, may I be happy. May I relax. May I love myself as I am. Whatever virtue you need in this moment, offer it in loving kindness to yourself. And as you sit there with a smile, offering your loving kindness metta for yourself, allow yourself to notice the felt sense in your body of love or whatever virtue you offered yourself. What does it feel like in your body to be love? How does it resonate within you? You might notice a gentle warmth, a tingle, maybe your heartbeat, a flow of air, maybe the rising and falling of your chest, maybe a radiating sense of energy from your heart that might even expand into the other parts of your body. Just notice what loving kindness for yourself feels like. If your mind wanders, which it often does, that's okay. Just gently bring yourself back to recognize, oh, there goes my mind wandering. Release it by just not continue to think about it. Relax your body again. Re-smile. Come back to your mantra. Notice the felt sense of loving kindness within you. And just repeat the Trinity of the smile, the mantra, and the felt sense of loving kindness within your body. Just allow yourself to bask and savor what it feels like within your body to experience by kindness. And when you're ready, allow yourself to bring to mind someone you'd like to offer loving kindness to. Could be a spiritual friend. Could be a loved one who's suffering or needs some extra love. Whoever comes to mind in your heart space, feel loving kindness for them in your heart. Feel the warmth, the radiating sense of love in your heart for that person. And as that love radiates within you, just allow it to naturally flow from your heart to them in a wave of loving energy. And then notice the loving energy within them smiling back at you, and receive their love. Just experience the giving and receiving of love between you and the person who's come to mind for you. And when you're ready, allow yourself to draw your awareness back to the chair you're sitting in, to your body, to your breath, to the I am that is you in this moment in time. And open your eyes whenever you're ready. And feel free to turn your video back on if you'd like.
Enable us to turn it back on, big guy. It's not able to turn on the video.
Oh, you're not able to?
No.
Huh.
But we love you And we are grateful to you for such a beautiful sharing.
It won't, it really won't open, huh? Stop video.
You
Do you,
cannot start your video because the host has stopped it.
oh, how did I do that? Stop video. How did
You
I
may
do?
have to restart the video back again, and so we can let us go back into the platform.
Oh boy. Okay, video settings. Boy, they changed Zoom on me and I'm not used to it. Anybody have a suggestion how I do that? Sorry about that. Pause, stop recording. Host tools.
If you click on the video icon, you
Okay.
should have video settings. Select camera, give you the settings down at the very bottom.
Video settings.
And then if you open up that, is there something there that allows you to allow people?
Boy, that's crazy.
Yeah, I follow the steps, and then as James saying, go back again to the settings and go video settings.
Okay. So I go to video and video settings. Okay.
Yes.
And then I get a box with general video, audio, share screen, team chat.
Yes, I think you have to put always display participant name in their videos. I think that's you can do it over there.
Oh, well, let's see. Dang. Well, I hate to take everybody's time. Stop my video when joining. I show video. Not seeing any video. That's us. Gosh, I'm sorry, guys.
It was a wonderful sharing and a wonderful.
Yeah, well, I'm playing with that. Why don't we talk about just what did you experience? I'll try to get us back to that, but what did you experience? Normally we would do that for about 30 minutes, in the beginning practice, or an hour or whatever works, but we took really about 10 minutes to do that. What did you experience, both for yourself? What was the felt sense? And then also when you shared it with other people?
It was warmth, like you said, warmth and love. It was very embodied love, very, very nurturing. Thank you.
Mhm. Anybody else?
I really felt a lot of peace, and I really appreciated the body sense there, the exchange. I'm not sure if I experienced exchanging with the other person quite so much, but
Sure.
I did send energy.
Very neat.
I too was able to feel some type of energy, of warmth in my chest, which I really liked. I really liked that when I can feel that felt sense you were talking about, Brian.
Very cool. Anybody else?
It automatically, I think when you go into the deep meditation, your body in a ways embrace that sense of calmness. I think when if you focus on the mantra in a way, and what the word means for you, what does that symbolize for you? I guess chemically speaking, in your brain or maybe your body functions just embrace that level of tranquility of
Mhm.
of whatever mantra that you're using. It's just kind of like leads you to that, and it gives you deeper.
Yeah. Very neat. And isn't it amazing, just in the few minutes that we shared that, that you experienced that, just in 10 minutes, basically. So yeah, amazing. Very cool. Well, yeah, that's the practice. And obviously need more practice with the Zoom changes that they made. So I apologize for that. But I'll offer myself loving kindness that but yeah, let me just share my screen here then. Can you all see the screen?
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Good
Let's
deal.
do it. What did you
Yeah.
experience for yourself?
Perfect. Yeah. Good deal. Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's just kind of the sense of how this practice is simple. Again, the beauty of it is I think that you can bring it into the day. Um, so whenever we go to a workshop, I always ask, okay, where do I go from here? It was a great workshop. What did I learn? My suggestion would be, if again, not that this practice is always going to work for everybody, but if it resonates with you, it could be a God nudge, I call it, to really use it, really establish a daily 30-minute, I call it a quiet time meditation, using the loving kindness practice. And again, feel free to add more time if it's there. What we're doing in that quiet meditation is really training our brain how to use these tools in a very calming, very, the trinity of tools, the smile, the loving kindness mantra for ourselves, and then the felt sense of that. So that then you can do the second thing, which is take TWIM into the active part of your day. So integrate the loving kindness practice into the active part of your day by noticing, when do you bump up against one of the hindrances or distractions? When you get frustrated or angry? We're never going to get it perfect. I always thought, maybe 30 years ago when I first started down the contemplative path, I thought, well, maybe someday I'll arrive. But obviously I have a long way to go, as we all do. We all have approach spirituality in our own inner growth with a beginner's mind. So we're never going to get it perfect, but we begin to notice more and more, wow, I didn't overreact to somebody in traffic, or this person made me angry, or, I noticed myself judging myself, and I stopped it immediately and offered myself a smile and a loving kindness. So we begin to notice slowly, the more we're practicing. It's kind of like, when we're exercising the body, when we're doing good nutrition and maybe exercising ourselves, we don't in the first week or so notice a change. But over time, we get on the scale and go, oh, wow, I've lost some weight. And oh, I'm a little stronger than I was. And I have more energy. So it's the same thing with a spiritual practice, the more we do it, the more we receive the fruits of it, basically. So take it to the active part of the day, offer that smile, a loving kindness mantra, and return to that felt sense, a bodily sense of that. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So next month, as James actually says, another important part of the loving kindness is the forgiveness meditation. So on October 29th, I'll do a free workshop again, in this kind of format, but focusing on the guide to forgiveness meditation. Many times, probably for 90% of us, Bhante says, need to first walk through this forgiveness meditation before we can really open ourselves to deepening in the loving kindness practice. Many say, and I've done that, is actually I offer this forgiveness meditation to myself throughout the day and to others. So when I do my 30 minutes of loving kindness, or my hour of that, then I take my dog for a walk, and that's what I practice, the forgiveness meditation. I forgive myself for not understanding. I forgive others for not understanding. So it's a powerful, and again, a simple practice. When I did my blog that went out on Monday on the forgiveness meditation, somebody emailed me and says, oh my gosh, nobody's ever unpacked forgiveness. How do you forgive? It's always an intellectual concept. So this forgiveness meditation is powerful. In the blog that went out on Monday, if you click on my reference to the guide to forgiveness meditation, Bhante's meditation group is so amazing. They just want resources free. So actually there's a free download of this guide to forgiveness meditation. And then there's also on their website, beginning instructions for loving kindness meditation. So there's all kinds of good tools that they have on their website. When I send out this video and this outline, probably tomorrow morning, I'll include some of those links to the Meditation Center website. They've got a ton of YouTubes, all kinds of practices, and like James was saying, there's an online one that you can do to practice it. So yeah, so next week or next month, on the last Thursday of the month, October 29th, we'll do forgiveness, dissolving the blocks to experiencing a happy mind. So sound good. Any questions before we offer some some loving kindness to ourselves and everybody? Any thoughts? Okay. Well,
Thanks for everything. It was such a acknowledging, this was a very good lesson.
Oh, good, good. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Spreading loving kindness, all of us, to each other into the world. Sounds good. Yeah. So how about we do this? How about we together say this prayer together as a group, knowing that we are offering ourselves, and there's literally an energy of love that goes out every time we spread the energy of love to ourselves and to other people. So let's begin together and say it all together. So may all beings be peaceful.
Peaceful.
May
all beings be happy.
May all beings be safe. May all beings awaken to the I am essence of their true nature. May all beings be free. Well, thank you everybody so much for being here, and I offer you loving kindness, and we'll be in touch. God bless.
God bless.
God bless.
Bye. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Brian.
Bye,
Thank you.
Brian.
Bye.
Ciao.